Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to comdarchipodcast Season 6.
Saison 6, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Dear listeners, good morning. This is Esther on behalf of Anne-Charlotte. It's good to meet you again in Season 6 of Comme d'Archi with a text by the CoBe office about two of their projects, Athlètes Village and the Laherrère Center in Pau, France. But first, let them introduce themselves. CoBe combines architecture, urban planning, landscaping, construction management and design, integrates in the creations, draws the ability to correct ruptures, to create new links, to look to the future through its cross skills with benevolence and confidence. Created in 2002 by architects and urban planners Alexandre Jonvel, Raphaël Denis, and Martin Lemaire, CoBe has expanded with a landscape design partner, Luc Boegly, in 2011, and a construction managing partner, Fabrice Taillandier, in 2017. In 2021, CoBe is expanding its field of action even further by celebrating the opening of its design division. CoBe creates links. Designing the city is about freeing up space, optimizing its use, recycling, and reusing. We aim to insert this vision in each project, from the very first ideas and sketches. Our vision thinks the link, envisions the landscape in the landscape, the city in the city. Designing and thinking spaces means to observe and understand the dynamics in order to erase the splits. It is about the vitality, the sustainability of the links between territories and between users. In Paris, Porto, Bordeaux, Lisbon, Quimperlé, Valencia, and Marseille, CoBe works with many territories that surround these cities, all of which claim a history, a singular culture, a landscape tone, a practice of architecture and construction, a way of life of its inhabitants. CoBe is perpetually being enhanced by the context of its projects, sharing its experiences to enrich its practice. The agency constantly builds its working methodology with its partners, its sponsors, from the perspective of responsibility, listening, and co-construction. This is the sense of commitment of these almost 100 employees who make up CoBe's multidisciplinary teams. Balancing, creating, protecting, enhancing, projecting links by creating spaces of the common, more logical, more creative, fairer. One of CoBe's mottos is building links to shape new horizons. In this podcast, we take a look at two CoBe architectural projects with a strong urban planning dimension. These are the agency's two latest flagship projects in which the use of wood is particularly prominent. The first CoBe project today is the Athlètes Village, lot E2B, located in Saint-Ouen-sur-Seine, France. A construction of 98 housing units, 6 shared spaces, and 7 shops, called in French, Village des Athlètes. The architect office is CoBe Architecture and Landscape, of course. And the client partner includes Nexity, Eiffage, Groupama, CDC Habitat, and EDF. A family resemblance. Sector E of the Athlètes Village is first and foremost a family resemblance. As coordinator architect of the sector, CoBe has pre-written the main guidelines that govern the design of the various buildings, while leaving some leeway to the individual designers. As such, The visuals of the CoBe project produced for the competition have served from the outset as reference images to represent the entire project in the sector. In order to ensure its total coherence, the family resemblance has been extended into the skeleton of the buildings by means of a common construction method based on a system of posts and beams, combining wood and low-carbon concrete. Programmed reversibility, exemplary carbon footprint, massive use of wood, universal accessibility, harmonization of colors between buildings, etc. The common construction system of the buildings becomes the glue of all these ingredients, allowing each architect to cook the recipe in his own way. Lot E2B, a homogeneous language. The 3 buildings designed by CoBe are located on the eastern edge of the Belvédères at the crossroads of 3 major public spaces, the Finot Street, the Ampère Square, and the Coteau Alley. This situation puts the E2B block in a central position. The project amplifies this figurehead through a homogeneous language of the 3 buildings, materials, rhythm, hue. A height game has been set up to respond to varied urban situations, placing the highest volume at the intersection of the Finot Street and the square and marking the entrance to the district. A common plinth, consisting of structural piers of mass-stained fluted die-cast precast concrete and sandblasted precast concrete lintels, unites the 3 buildings of Lot E2B. The entrance to the home, from the public space to the intimate space, is punctuated by quality common areas, maintaining a continuous relationship with the outside. A large hall leading through to the heart of the block, a large and natural lit corridor on the first floor. A direct relationship is established between the dwellings and the outdoor spaces from the entrance, thanks in particular to diagonal views of the large windows of the living rooms and the long balconies. The appearance of the facades is enriched by an interplay of the railings that oscillates between 45 degrees and minus 45 degrees from one floor out of 2, creating a visual quincux that is recognizable in the distance. Added to this is the presence of metal profiles running along all the facades and which can be transformed into pergolas on the roof. The presence of these pergolas on all buildings makes it possible to harmonize all the roofs. Materials. While ensuring a high fidelity to the initial design, the facades of the buildings were refined during the design. In order to harmonize the 3 buildings of the lot, an exoskeleton composed of vertical metal profiles runs over all the floors, highlighting the verticality of the buildings and providing additional support to the private balconies of building B3. On the top level, these profiles are transformed into pergolas, protecting the roof terraces and supporting the photovoltaic panels placed at the top of each of the buildings. Technical elements, such as downspouts, have been carefully positioned behind the various structural elements and cladding, and their colors have been rigorously selected according to the color of the buildings in order to guarantee a perfect harmony of materials. Even though the 3 buildings on the block are adorned with different families of materials, they feature the same sandblasted shades, so that each building is visually differentiated by its materiality. Ribbed metal cladding for E2B1, ensuring the transition between lots E1 and E2. Ribbed terracotta shingles for E2B2, ensuring the transition with lot E3. Wood structure and stamped plaster for E2B3, in the same way as all the buildings in Sector E, rising to 5 floors, the villas. The second project is the Laherrère Center in Pau, France, situated in Place Laherrère. It is the construction of 2 office buildings housing professional training spaces, craft premises, services and shops, sustainable diversity. On the Laherrère Square, in the heart of the Saragosse district, CoBe's architects, urban planners, landscapers, designers, and site managers, in co-contracting with Week Agency, just built 2 buildings of 11,210 square meters, part of an ambitious program led by Pôle Laherrère Habitat, being at the same time a place of life, work, professional training, and economic development. The Laherrère Center contributes to the development of the Saragosse district by creating a large offer of housing for students and young workers, office and training spaces, craft premises, as well as local shops and services. Spread over 2 buildings, the project has a mixed materiality made of wood, concrete, and glass, and is part of a global sustainable development approach combining bioclimatic design, bio-based materials, and energy performance. A changing context. The Saragosse district in which the project is built was designed in the 1950s and 1960s. Its urban renewal project has identified it as a territory in great social fragility, but with a very favorable urban position, close to the city center of Pau. Saragosse is now the most important social housing district of the urban area, with about 14,000 inhabitants, and is subject to intrinsic fragilities. Its urban planning is characteristic of the big housing estates era. The low rents it offers make it a solution for people in precarious situations, and the supply of local trade and equipment is very fragile. Faced with this observation, the state, with the ANRU, National Agency for Urban Renewal, and the city of Pau has decided to invest heavily in this district alongside the social landlord, Pôle Laherrère Habitat. Renovations, demolitions, and landscaping projects aimed at requalifying collective spaces at the foot of buildings are scheduled until 2027. The city of Pau is investing heavily in the development of bike paths, public transport, and in the creation of a district heating network that allows the sector to be labeled eco-district. The construction of the Laherrère Center is one of the priority axes of the urban renewal program of the Saragosse district. It is based on the general idea of creating 2 buildings, one to respond to the problem of housing for students and young workers, and another for companies or associations mainly focusing on integration through employment, with services and shops on the ground floor. In the heart of the district was located an old hospice, unoccupied and in very poor condition. The city proceeded with its demolition and wanted to build a qualitative real estate complex on the land left free, energizing and attractive both for the inhabitants and for the outsiders who will come to work and meet there. It is in this context that the design competition for the creation of the Laherrère Center was launched in 2018, won by CoBe, main architect, and Week, co-contractor, living in the square. The primary intention of the project was to constitute a real living space, on the model of a village square, like the market that the site has hosted since the beginning of the work. The 2 L-shaped buildings, firmly anchored on Laherrère Square, both adopt the same volumetry and the same materiality composed of wood and concrete. Mixed materiality. On the 2 levels of the ground floor, their structure rises in elegant proportions with low-carbon raw concrete arches poured on site. Some arches sometimes rise on 2 levels and are inspired by the local historical architectural language, while structuring the new square and promoting the reactivation of neighborhood life. On the 5 upper floors that make up the 2 buildings, the expression becomes lighter by sporting wood frame facades with wood fiber insulation, wood joinery, and warm-colored blinds, and reveals the rich and varied programming of the project. The frame of the facade is made of pectinated fir from forests of the Pyrénées-Atlantiques and Hautes-Pyrénées, while its coating is made of pre-grade Douglas fir from the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region. The joinery of the building is produced from Scots pines from Corrèze. Thus, all the wood species constituting the project come from French forests located less than 450 kilometers from the site. mixed program. Being at the same time a place of life, work, professional training, and economic development, the Laherrère Pôle contributes to improving the living environment of the inhabitants of the Saragosse district and to meeting a maximum of needs. The post and beam construction system put in place, in addition to its frugal dimension, makes it possible to accommodate a wide range of programs within the same project and makes it possible to anticipate a possible evolution of this programming during the life of the building. Thus, the real estate complex includes a housing hub with 116 student housing units managed by the CROUS, Social Organization for Students, and 60 housing units for young workers managed by the Habitat Jeunes Pôle Pyrénées Association, with shared common spaces in connection with the professional training and integration activities present in the project. An entrepreneurial hub with office and co-working floors, used in particular by associations, professional training structures, and support for business creation such as the Cuisine Mode d'Emploi School and its training restaurant founded by Michelin-starred chef Thierry Marx, the Saint-Ouen School and the Second Chain School, as well as 5 craft premises, local services and shops to meet the needs and expectations of residents, such as a police station, services related to employment, a concierge, 2 breweries, and sales spaces related to craft premises. A conviviality room, multipurpose room of 234 square meters also allows the organization of various events and is accessible by reservation to all the inhabitants of the project and the district. Interior organization. Hosting shops, services, and craft premises in direct connection with the Laherrère Square, the ground floors operate autonomously on both buildings. Each of them hosts a generous double-height shared entrance hall for all the programs on the upper floors, accessible by 2 major entrances located on the square and arranged by CoBe's design department. A set of custom-made joinery, framing in particular the mailboxes and dressing the double height, has been created in the hall of the East Building dedicated to housing. On the side of the office building, a reception desk in moorland pine and arudi stone, Pyrénées-Atlantiques, was also made to measure in the entrance hall. Access to the floors is provided from the 2 halls via a common landing, allowing access to the different programs. In the East Building, the common living spaces are accessible directly from the landings, and housing for students and young workers is developed on both sides via naturally lit hallways. In the West Building, the landings on each floor directly accommodate the break spaces and shared meeting rooms of the various work and professional training spaces. On the first floor, all the offices and common areas of the association Habitat Jeunes Pôle Pyrénées are arranged by CoBe by using second-hand office furniture and through the realization of specific wooden furniture from reuse by a professional integration company. The entire project attaches great importance to outdoor spaces, whether public or private. On the south side, the premises and halls located on the ground floor have direct access from the square, bringing life to the entire area, thanks to the breweries located at the corner of each building. Those also benefit from double-height spaces with mezzanines. Between the 2 buildings, a tree-lined pedestrian street serves the various facilities on the ground floor, craft premises, and brewery terraces. Large loggias, sometimes double-heighted, punctuate the facade and provide a generous outdoor space to the common areas of the different programs. The upstairs bays are also complemented by blinds to regulate the solar gain inside the different spaces facing south and west. The roofs of the 2 buildings are also inhabited and each host a generous common terrace with pergolas and vegetated spaces containing a melting pot substrate made of recycled organic waste. Quality of use. The Laherrère Center project is primarily concerned with the integration of housing for young workers and student housing into an urban renewal project, linked with the professional integration activities which take place in the project. Its success is linked to the quality of the housing produced, as well as to the mix of uses offered by the global program. One does not go without the other. As such, common living spaces are shared between the two housing programs that the East Building hosts: shared entrance hall, furnished landings, laundry, co-working spaces, terraces. The Cruz apartments are one room of 17 square meters on average. The housing created for the landlord Habitat Jeune Pau-Pyrénées is intended to accommodate people from 16 to 30 with various statuses with limited financial resources: employees, interns, apprentices, job seekers. The diversity of these accommodations allows the hosting of people wishing to live alone, as a couple, or in flat share, as well as young parents. There are one room of 17 square meters on average, one room prime of 24 square meters, and one room bis of 33 square meters. We wanted to design housing with exemplary habitability, whose layout promotes appropriation by tenants, gives them a feeling of comfort and privacy, of home. Particular attention has been paid to the supply of light in the housing, thanks to the installation of large bays and generous ceiling heights of about 2.70 meters. The accommodations benefit from a fixed bay with a height of 195 centimeters and 125 centimeters width without horizontal overlap, in order to make the most of the light and the view. To this bay is attached a solid wooden opening hidden in the facade. The furniture and decoration of the dwellings were created in a design-thinking approach. Thus, the accommodations here create an atmosphere close to that of a conventional apartment. Light shades, wooden furniture, kitchen and bathroom painted yellow, faience and upper cabinets, used of non-standardized design lighting, many storage spaces. Dear listeners, thank you for tuning in. Let's meet again next week for a new comdarchi in English. And until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening.
And thanks to the sound engineer who was collaborating with us today.
Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at comdarchipodcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.